broadcast. And outside, we're broadcasting right in the Bella Center. But this is a key moment in time when you have tens of thousands of people who are deeply concerned about global warming, from island nations in the Pacific like Tuvalu and Maldives to Arctic Village in Alaska and Canada. Indigenous people, Africans who are extremely concerned about what has happened to their countries, to the land, not because of what they have done, but because of what the most powerful countries have done. And to have this kind of gathering and to be able to broadcast the voices of people from across the globe and to meet people, virtual life is very important, but actually physically meeting people to continue the work we do, to provide a forum for people to speak for themselves. This is an incredible experience. So inside the Bella Center and outside, these days of rallies and protests that are beginning are also extremely significant. And then you'll have the world leaders coming, and we'll see what happens. As the sign outside the Bella Center says on some bus, politicians speak, leaders act.
A very good thought. What do you think, then, is going to be the action that comes out of this? There's what we hope will happen, and then there's what the reality of what's going to happen. Where do you think we're going to end up?
I don't know, because it depends on people mobilizing. It's not we know what the leaders want. They do not want a binding agreement here. And yet people are desperate. Countries will be submerged. The debate in the United States is so incredibly limited to, is there such thing as global warming? That's where we are in the United States. But to go beyond that, to talk about debates over solutions like we had tonight, is extremely important. But to hear a 15-year-old boy named Mohammed Aksam Mamoun from the Maldives, who's participated in the Children's Climate Summit, talking about his land disappearing, the eloquence of children who understand what people in the United States of all ages are only beginning to appreciate. I have a challenge to the weathermen, the meteorologists, that is, of the United States, because everyone turns on television and the radio for the weather, right? If they, instead of flashing when in Portland, Oregon, there's feet of snow, extreme weather. If they flash global warming. In our country, there's no understanding of where it's so cold. Someone would say, why global warming? Or a hurricane in New Orleans. We have to start making the connections. That's what this conference in Copenhagen is about. Whether or not the leaders make the connections, people, thousands of people who've desperately gathered here are.
We often at the UpTake, we talk about corporate media and independent media, and that corporate media seems to be asleep at the switch so much in covering these type of issues and getting the truth out there.
I would disagree with you.
You would disagree with that? Okay, tell me why.
Not asleep at the switch, consciously preventing the debate from happening. When you have networks that are brought to you by Exxon and Mobil and Chevron and the coal companies and the weapons manufacturers, they don't want this debate to take place. It's not just that, the networks lazily go along and they just haven't, twigged on to global warming yet. These very same entities that either own or spend millions advertising are the ones that are spending millions of dollars in Congress every week to prevent any kind of global warming legislation from happening. Interestingly, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has a number of large corporations like Apple and Exelon, PG&E, Levi Strauss that have pulled out because of their absolute recalcitrance on the issue of global warming legislation. That's why the Yes Men held that news conference at the National Press Club a few weeks ago, where they posed as the Chamber of Commerce, announcing that they would reverse their position. And suddenly Fox Business News was going live with breaking news. U.S. Chamber of Commerce changed its position. But the networks are actively preventing that kind of debate, and there is a discussion when we're lucky, and that's only about, does global warming exist, which of course prevents the further discussion of all the very serious debates that do need to take place. Coming to Copenhagen, something that we don't get in the United States is this whole issue of climate debt, climate justice, reparations. Why should countries be paying for something they didn't do? And the idea of the industrialized world, which has so long polluted these developing countries and taken up the space, right, the air, the atmosphere, polluted it, that they owe. It's not as the U.S. climate negotiator said, there's only so much largesse we have to help out the developing world. It's not about largesse or charity or aid. It's about what is owed to these countries. And ultimately, it's about world peace, because when there isn't justice, people get angry. And in this week of the Nobel Peace Prize, maybe we could take some of the irony out of it. President Obama giving his speech in Oslo, just 300 miles from here, making his case for war in Afghanistan. Maybe we could take some of the irony out of it. When people don't feel sidelined, hurt, disempowered, there is a possibility that we can work together for a better, more peaceful and sustainable world.
I'm going to take us back to the media question, though, because you see that as a kind of a block in getting things done. What can people who are watching do because of that media block?
I think support the UpTake, support independent media. It's very important. I don't take that lightly at all. democracynow.org. We have more listeners and viewers and people getting the podcast than MSNBC. Millions of people around the world. And it's true for this growing independent media movement. But we cannot let the corporate media alone, because it's not just like they're running private corporations on private property. They're using our property. They're using the public property. That land is our land, and it is a national treasure. It's the way we debate and discuss the most important issues of the day, and we have to hold them accountable.
Amy Goodman, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all you do. It's terrific.
All right, that's Mike McIntee with the UpTake. Thanks for watching.